Hey guys, I'm Will for What Culture, and I want to talk to you today about TV, or more specifically, the times TV stabbed us straight in the heart with a knife made of pure emotion. We as consumers seem to love nothing more than having our hearts broken by a show when it takes a sudden, devastating turn. That's why Game of Thrones is the biggest show in the world and not the Teletubbies. And it's with that in mind that I'm Will for What Culture, and this is 10 devastating TV show moments that came out of absolutely nowhere. Number 10. Big Bird finds out Mr. Hooper is dead. Sesame Street. When considering devastating TV show moments, Sesame Street is unlikely to be the first show that comes bounding to mind, but there is one episode which perfectly fits the bill. When Will Lee, the actor who played Mr. Hooper, died in 1982, rather than explain his absence on screen by saying his character moved away or retired, the showrunners decided to use it as an opportunity to explain to viewers about the complexities and reality of death. In the episode, the audience and Big Bird learn that his friend Mr. Hooper has died, and the show goes to great lengths to explain what that actually means and examine healthy ways of dealing with the loss of death. This was an incredibly ambitious decision because it did not shield children from the harsh realities of the world. Instead, it taught them the reality of death and to remember the positive contributions people made while they were alive. This is a show for preschoolers, remember, and it is doubly devastating to remind yourself that a real man actually died, Will Lee, who had been a part of children's lives all over the world for as long as they could remember. Number 9. Tara dies. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy the Vampire Slayer's success was equal parts down to excellent casting and masterful tonal control by showrunner Joss Whedon. This allowed it to perfectly balance between humour, horror and action, while also allowing for occasional moments of tragedy. There are a few moments in the series that could qualify for this list, like Joyce's death in season 5, but the number 1 spot from Buffy the Vampire Slayer has to go to Tara's death midway through season 6. Tara meets her end at the hands of Warren, who shoots her through the heart with a stray bullet while trying to assassinate Buffy. Not only is her death sudden and unexpected, it actually led to Willow's devastating turn into Dark Willow, and she went on to become the big bad for season 6. The fan response was absolutely overwhelming, with people mailing hate messages to Joss Whedon and refusing to watch the show anymore. It just goes to prove how much of an impact these fictional characters can have on viewers' real, actual lives. Number 8. Fry's Goodbye. Futurama. It is impossible to talk about devastating TV show moments and not, at least in passing, mention Futurama's Jurassic Bark, the episode where Seymour waits for Fry, who never returns. However, that moment is so famous and so well known, it probably doesn't really qualify as devastating and coming out of nowhere anymore, and it sort of overshadows some other Futurama moments which are damn close to being equally devastating. One such moment occurs in the episode Game of Tones, where Fry spends most of the episode in his own dreams trying to communicate with his mother and tell her some things he wished he could have said before he was sent to the future. Ultimately, it comes to nothing because Fry realizes that this is only his mother in his dreams and not his actual mum. But at the end of the episode, through some trickery by Nibbler, Fry actually breaks through to his mother's dream and gets to communicate with her one final time. The scene is excellently crafted and it really hits home what is actually going on. This is a mother who lost her son forever. To her, Fry is basically as good as dead. He just left one New Year's Eve and never returned, and she never got any closure on that. It really hits home exactly what Fry lost, which was a mother who loved him and who lost her youngest son. Number 7. Frank kills Zoey. House of Cards. In a better time, before we knew that Kevin Spacey was just another in a long line of Hollywood perverts, House of Cards was the most lauded show on Netflix, and season 2 episode 1 did nothing but cement that reputation. Until this point, Zoey had been a main character who'd been drawing closer and closer to Frank's web of lies, so he does the only thing he can and give her a death by train. It's sudden and devastating, and it's House of Cards at its finest. Even when you know the death is coming, it still cuts deep. Number 6. Rick and Morty. Rick's suicide attempt. Rick and Morty is not a show known for its emotional complexity, wobble-lubba-dub-dub, etc., but it actually is capable of delivering a powerful emotional punch when the moment calls for it. One such standout moment is Rick's attempted suicide in the episode Autoerotic Assimilation. In it, after pushing away his family and going on a weekend-long drug binge and being dumped by Unity, Rick retreats into his garage and attempts to commit suicide, pulling his head out of the way of the laser beam at the very last moment. Undoubtedly tragic as depression and suicide always are, to us the viewers, seeing Rick in this situation is absolutely devastating. Until this point in the show, Rick has basically been a god. His intellect means he can do anything he wants. We're supposed to want to be as clever as Rick, and to see him brought this low and thrown completely out of the blue, it's easily the most devastating that Rick and Morty ever gets. Number 5. Jane's death and the resulting fallout. Breaking Bad. In a show as revolutionary as Breaking Bad, there's bound to be a few moments that knock the fanbase off their feet. Gus's death and Hank's death, to name a couple, but the number 1 spot goes to Jane's death and the resulting fallout. Perhaps the hardest hitting side to Jane's death is how it marks a poignant step in Walt's progression to outright villain. By electing not to save her life after he flips her onto her back while trying to wake Jesse, Walt effectively murders her. This also makes him third-handedly responsible for the plane crash which takes place above Albuquerque in the following episode. Not only is it tragic, it also sent a powerful message about the incredible repercussions of Walt's descent from family man to drug kingpin. Number 4. Nina is a chimera. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. If you've seen this show, you definitely already know the moment I am talking about. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood's strength lies in its characters, and that is exemplified in the episode where the Elric brothers meet a young girl called Nina Tucker. After the Elric brothers spend the first half of the episode getting to know Nina and her pet dog Alexander, they return to the house only to find a talking chimera that her father created by combining her and Alexander into one mutilated hybrid monster. This moment is honestly completely unforgettable. I'd say if you haven't seen Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, just go and watch this episode and then get hooked and watch the entire show. Nina the Chimera mutant hybrid monster is eventually killed in a mercy killing by Scar, who kills her father as well for his crimes, and the whole thing is just really, really sad. It's really sad, you guys. Number 3, Beth. The Walking Dead. Alongside Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead is a show notorious for smoking characters left and right whenever it bloody well feels like it. One excellent example of this comes in Season 5 with the death of Beth. Up until this point, Beth's arc at the hospital has been built up for the entire season, so it's really unexpected and devastating when she turns around, stabs Dawn with a pair of scissors, and then gets her brains blown out. Once again, it's just really, really sad and sudden, and it's devastating for a whole different reason for all of us who had the death spoiled for us on Facebook by AMC as the episode was aired. You, AMC, you are not forgiven. Number 2, Marshall's dead dad. How I Met Your Mother. One of the most famous moments in How I Met Your Mother, this reveal comes at the end of the episode Bad News. Throughout the episode, a big deal's been made about Lily and Marshall's attempts to conceive a baby, so when Lily shows up at the end and says she's got some big news for Marshall, we all anticipate it to be news about the baby. Instead, she tells him that his father has suffered a heart attack and died. It's a really touching moment and an incredibly devastating scene that's executed brilliantly by Alison Hannigan and Jason Segel. Anyone who's suffered a loss in the immediate family will recognise the sense of helplessness when faced with that news that moment perfectly captures. It's tragic and devastating, and it goes to show that How I Met Your Mother has the potential at times to be so much more than the dumb comedy that most people write it off as. Number 1, The Red Wedding. Obviously, it's the Red Wedding. It couldn't really be anything else. It's Game of Thrones for God's sake, and for God's sake, it's the Red Wedding. More so than any other moment in Game of Thrones, the Red Wedding signifies everything the show stands for when it comes to sudden, brutal devastation. Catelyn Stark, Robb Stark's wife, his unborn baby, countless Stark men, and even Grey Wind, Robb's direwolf, are all killed off within the span of a few devastating moments. This moment's impact propelled Game of Thrones to the biggest show in the world and still remains its most avidly discussed scene. In fact, it's the moment that all other sudden devastating twists and turns in TV and even film are measured against. And there you have it, folks, a somewhat depressing list of the most devastating moments TV shows have to offer. Definitely leave a comment down below with your own moments that TV shows rocked you to your core, as well as like, share, subscribe, and visit whatculture.com for daily news and articles. I'm Will for What Culture, and thanks for watching.